Imagine walking past a house so quiet, so eerie, that even the wind seems afraid to enter, only to discover that its garden is built from graves. That's the first thought that hits anyone who dares to glance at the widow's house. A house perched at the end of a narrow street, draped in shadows, surrounded by overgrown hedges that seem to whisper secrets. No children play there. No birds sing. It is a house of silence, a silence so deep, it feels almost alive. The widow herself? A mystery wrapped in layers of grief and obsession. Nobody truly knows her name anymore. Some call her Mrs. Blackwood. Others simply whisper, "The widow?" She arrived in the town decades ago, shortly after her husband's sudden and untimely death. No one remembers seeing her smile. No one remembers seeing her interact with neighbors. Yet everyone knows her garden, a garden unlike any other. The local children speak of it in hushed tones. They dare each other to peek over the crumbling fence, catching glimpses of strange shapes among the plants. Shadows twist unnaturally in the moonlight. The flowers, oh, the flowers, they grow in a pattern that feels disturbingly deliberate. But what no one dares to say aloud is the chilling truth. The garden is built from graves. Yes, graves. Not just metaphorically but literally. Burials arranged beneath the soil, feeding her garden in ways that defy both reason and morality. When she first arrived in the town, whispers followed her like shadows. The postman noticed the letters piling up, unanswered. The neighbors noticed lights flickering late at night. Sometimes a faint sound, like someone digging, echoed from the backyard only to vanish into the night. Her presence was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes a person second-guess their own senses. And yet she did not appear sinister, at first. She dressed in simple black dresses, spoke rarely, and walked slowly as if every step was measured, precise, intentional. Her eyes, though, were what caught attention. Eyes that seemed to hold centuries of secrets, grief so profound it chilled the spine. When she looked at you, it was not just a glance. It was an examination of your very soul. The local historian, old Mr. Hawthorne, tried to catalog her arrival and early years. He wrote in his journal, "There is a peculiar stillness about her, as if time itself obeys her command. The house feels alive in her absence, and perhaps it is. So why graves? Why a garden built atop them?" The story begins not with death, but with obsession. For her, death was never an end, it was a transformation. And in her grief, she sought to create something eternal, something beautiful. But at what cost? As you watch this video, prepare yourself. You will walk with us through the creaking gates, along paths lined with more than just flowers. You will witness the story of a widow who defied the natural order, turning death into a garden that will haunt your imagination long after the screen goes dark. By the end, you may find yourself questioning, how far would grief push a human being? And what horrors might be lurking silently beneath the soil we walk upon every day? Every flower has a story. But some stories should never be told, yet hers were carved in stone, literally. The widow's story is not just a tale of a lonely woman. It is a study in isolation, obsession, and the lengths grief can drive a person. Born into a modest family, she was always considered peculiar by neighbors. She would spend hours in the garden of her childhood home, arranging flowers in strange, geometric patterns, talking to the plants as if they could understand her. But tragedy struck early. Her husband, a wealthy and respected man, died suddenly under mysterious circumstances. Some said it was an accident. Others whispered darker possibilities. Regardless, she was left alone in the mansion, surrounded by riches she barely touched. The community, initially sympathetic, slowly grew wary. Lights were seen flickering at odd hours. The smell of freshly turned earth lingered at the edge of the property. Neighbors reported seeing the widow digging in her yard under the cover of darkness. The rumors began, "She speaks to the dead," they said. "She's making something unnatural." Letters to the local authorities yielded nothing. Records of burials, soil transfers, and renovations were oddly incomplete, as if some hidden hand protected her. And yet, every story the neighbors told shared a chilling consistency. There was something in her garden that did not belong to the world of the living. Some claimed to have seen shadows moving among the flowers, even in broad daylight. The local children dared each other to peek inside, only to return trembling, describing a garden that seemed alive, watching them. Flowers bloomed unnaturally fast, colors more vivid than any botanical book could explain. And beneath them? Disturbances in the soil, shapes that resembled tombs, gravestones small and unmarked, covered by moss. Psychologists might call her behavior obsessive, bordering on pathological. Spiritualists whispered of rituals and dark pacts. The truth, like most dark legends, lies somewhere in between. The widow had a vision. She wanted a garden that would survive time itself, nourished not just by sunlight and rain, but by something more permanent. Neighbors who confronted her described a woman who spoke softly but with conviction. "Life feeds life," she said. "Death is not an end, but a beginning. My garden must bloom forever." And so she dug. At night, when the world slept, she tended her soil, whispered to her plants, and planted seeds in rows that mirrored patterns of her grief. The town slept uneasy, waking to the strange beauty of her blooms, never realizing the horrors buried beneath. By now, the whispers had evolved into stories, passed down from generation to generation. Some claimed that if you listened carefully near the fence, you could hear her singing softly, songs of loss and longing, of death and life intertwined. The widow's house had become a legend, a dark epic, whispered with awe and fear. They said she talked to her plants, but the plants whispered back. Step inside her garden and reality begins to warp. At first glance, it is beautiful, almost mesmerizing. Flowers in impossible shades, roses with black petals, lilies taller than a man, their fragrance heavy and intoxicating. Paths wind through the garden like rivers of green, bordered by stones that glint unnaturally under the sun. But something feels wrong. The soil itself seems to breathe, rising and falling subtly, as if something beneath stirs. Look closer and the truth emerges. Every bloom grows from a grave, carefully hidden beneath layers of earth and mulch. Small markers, etched with no names, hint at lives once lived. Occasionally, a curious bird hops onto the edge of the soil and hesitates, sensing the presence of something. Visitors who have dared step into the garden rarely stay long. They describe an uncanny sensation as if unseen eyes track their movements. Shadows curl and stretch. Plants move in ways that defy wind or gravity. The widow herself appears in the distance, pruning flowers, her black dress flowing like a wraith. She hums a melody that sounds almost like a lament or a chant. She treats her garden as both shrine and sanctuary. Each grave, each plant, is part of her vision, an eternal testament to life sprouting from death. And in the darkest corners of the garden, rumors persist. People have gone missing, daring to trespass. Their fates are unknown. Some claim they were quietly added to the soil, their essence nourishing the next season's bloom. Yet the garden is not grotesque. It is hypnotically beautiful. Visitors find themselves torn between revulsion and awe, mesmerized by the colors, scents, and patterns. Roses form concentric circles, lilies spiral in geometric perfection, and delicate vines curl into words that seem almost alive. One brave historian documented the garden at twilight. He noted, "The flowers glowed faintly, not with light, but with some inner vitality. I felt eyes upon me, and the soil beneath my feet thrummed like a heartbeat. It was alive." Neighbors speak of strange rituals. Candles flicker at night. Soft chanting echoes through the air. Sometimes, the widow kneels by a newly planted grave and whispers names no one has ever heard. Her obsession is relentless, bordering on sacred madness. As you imagine this garden, consider the paradox. A place where death feeds life, where grief becomes art, where the silence of the house outside the gates contrasts with the vibrant, almost supernatural energy inside. It is a garden unlike any other on earth, both horrifying and breathtaking, a testament to obsession and the delicate boundary between life and death. By now, the audience should feel a mixture of fascination, dread, and morbid curiosity. They are drawn deeper into the widow's world, unable to look away, anticipating the dark secrets that Section 4 will reveal. By the time anyone realized, the silence was eternal, and so was her creation. Every legend has a conclusion. Every story, a secret waiting to be unearthed. For the widow's house, the final truth is as chilling as it is mesmerizing. Years passed. Curiosity waned. The local police dismissed complaints. Townsfolk avoided the house entirely. And yet, the widow's garden thrived, untouched by time, nourished by secrets too dark for daylight. It was only when a new family moved in across the street that the final revelation came to light. Children playing near the garden noticed something strange. The soil seemed different, cooler, softer, almost pulsing. One of them, braver than the rest, peered over the fence and saw the widow kneeling among the flowers, her hands covered in rich, dark soil. But it was not just earth. There were bones, small and large, carefully planted alongside the plants. The truth cannot be overstated. The widow's garden was not only built from graves, it had become a repository of the missing, a living memorial to death itself. Her obsession with eternal beauty had pushed her past morality, past legality, past the limits of human comprehension. The town was horrified when authorities finally investigated after multiple disappearances were linked to her property. Inside the house, they found journals detailing her philosophy: life feeds life. Death is not the end, but the medium through which beauty persists. My garden is eternal, and through it I am eternal too. No arrest was ever fully carried out. The widow had vanished, leaving only her house and garden behind. Some say she walked into the woods and was never seen again. Others whisper that she still tends her blooms at night, hidden from human eyes, the soil beneath still alive with secrets. The garden remains a place of morbid fascination. Tourists and thrill seekers peer through the fences, capturing glimpses of flowers that defy explanation, graves that carry the weight of untold stories, and shadows that move against the light. It is a living legend, a monument to obsession, grief, and the macabre artistry of a widow who refused to let death be the end. And so the story ends, not with peace, not with resolution, but with a lingering question: how far can grief and obsession take a person? And what, in the silence of her garden, continues to grow unseen, forever? Some gardens are meant to be admired. Some are meant to be feared. If this story sent chills down your spine, imagine the countless secrets still buried in silence, waiting to be discovered. Don't miss our next journey into the world's most haunting mysteries. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and join us, if you dare. And remember, some stories refuse to stay buried.